think there's names. I don't know. We'll spread out. Keeping social distance. Okay, so it's 6:07. Let's call them to order the Historic Review Board meeting for April 19th. We're going to do a roll call. Linn or John?
I will do the roll call. I don't have the list in front of me, so forgive me if I forget someone. Chair Schreiber,
Here.
John Steele,
Present.
Christopher Owens,
Here.
David Taylor,
Here.
James Manning,
Yep.
Scott Irwin,
Present.
Tom Watton,
Here.
Lynn Schroeder,
Here.
Bill Monahan.
I'm present.
I believe that's it. Who are we missing?
We have some guests too, right?
Yes. And if our guests can introduce themselves, Jessica?
This is Jessica Ireland. I'm the architect.
And I think your client, Tim Tofty?
Yes.
Great. Thank you so much.
Our first item on our agenda, public comment related to land use items not on the agenda. Do we have anyone? There's no one here present, but anyone online or any comments that came in? All right, then our next item is the continuation of our public hearing from March 15th, the Westland Saloon Class 2 Design Review DR 2201 and sign permit SGN 2204. I'll move to our script. Good evening. Tonight we are holding a continued public hearing regarding application number DR 2201 and SGN 2204 for a Class 1 Historic Design Review and sign permit. At the close of the public hearing discussion of March 15th, the PC continued the hearing to, actually would be the HRB, right? But the HRB continued the hearing to April 19th and left the record open on one item, the need to avoid demolition by neglect during the process of removing existing siding. This is a quasi-judicial decision. Unlike a legislative hearing where personal opinion may come into play, quasi-judicial rulings must be grounded in the relevant code, and if the application meets the code, the board must approve it. The hearing will proceed as follows. After the preliminary legal matters, staff will make a presentation followed by the applicant, then members of the audience. Finally, there will be a time for rebuttal by the applicant. I now call to order. Ooh, I have my, yes. I've had to do that for 2 years. I will now ask the city attorney to cover the preliminary legal matters.
Thank you, Chair Schreiber. So the applicant has the burden of proving that the application is consistent with the City of Westland's Community Development Code, its comprehensive plan, and any applicable municipal code provisions. The criteria that must be addressed in the hearing, CDC Chapter 19, 25, 52, 58, and 99. Any testimony, argument, or evidence that speakers give us must be directed to these criteria or at some other criteria in the code or comprehensive plan, which the person believes should apply to the decision. Only those who have appeared before the Historic Review Board in person or in writing will have standing to appeal this item to the City Council. So last week we went, or rather last meeting, we went over the continuance language that applies for the initial public hearing. This is not the initial public hearing, so we'll delete that. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to allow the board and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. Failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues related to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the city or its designee to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court. So now we'll go through the items. Conflict of interest. Do any members of the Historic Review Board wish to declare a potential or actual conflict of interest or a bias? And I can tell if someone who is remote can use the electronic hand raise feature, I can recognize those. And Lynn, if you can help me in the hearing room, if any member who's present in the hearing room raises a hand. Does anyone have a conflict of interest, a bias, or a potential or actual conflict of interest or bias to declare? I'm not seeing any. Lynn, is anyone in the hearing room?
Mr. Monahan, there are no bias claims in the hearing room.
Thank you very much, Lynn. So next we'll go on to ex parte contacts. So since the March 15th hearing, do any members of the Historic Review Board wish to report any site visits or ex parte contacts in regard to this application?
I visited the site.
You visited the site and the board member did.
Just to review citing, some of the questions that we had off the last one of the different sightings and things like that. I just went to go look at that.
Okay. And if you, during the course of the hearing, board member, identify anything that you saw that was different that's within the staff report that's going to influence your decision, would you please share that information for the benefit of all of the members of the board?
Will do.
Thank you. So Lynn, I'll ask you, does anyone in the hearing room appear to be trying to get my attention to make a comment about ex
No,
parte contacts?
No, Mr. Monahan, there's no one in the hearing room who wants to make a claim.
Great, thank you very much, Lynn. So now we'll go to challenges. Does any member of the audience wish to challenge the jurisdiction of the Historic Review Board to hear this matter?
There are none in this chambers.
Thank you, and I noticed the applicant shaking his head no, so I'm not seeing any challenges there. Last item is challenge the impartiality of any member of the Historic Review Board. Does any member of the audience wish to challenge the impartiality or the ex parte disclosure that's been made of any member of the Historic Review Board for tonight's hearing? So that's directed to the applicant and the applicant's representative and anyone else present. I'm seeing the applicant shake his head no. Lynn, is there anyone in the council hearings chamber?
None in the chamber.
Okay. So it appears that there are no challenges to impartiality. So with that, Chair Schreiber, I'll turn the matter back over to you. That concludes the legal matters.
Thank you. Then let's proceed with the staff presentation.
Yes, thank you, Chair Schreiber. For the record, my name is John Floyd, planner with the City of West Linn. Can everyone hear me? Okay,
Yes.
great. Thank you. Sorry, just want to confirm. So yes. So as you will recall, last month on March 15th, we opened the public hearing for this item. It was continued to allow staff time to work with the applicant to address some general concerns about structural stability during construction, specifically related to the sequencing of the removal of the siding off the front of the structure and how that could affect the integrity of the building. After our public hearing, myself, planning staff, met with the building official and the applicant, and by phone, actually, sort of virtually, but still, we came up with the attached memorandum, which details a proposed sequence of construction, along with specifying a pre-construction meeting to go over the details. planning and building staff are satisfied with the contents of the memorandum, that it's this the proposed actions taken therein would be sufficient to protect the structure. And so because of that, I've proposed 4 additional conditions of approval in the memorandum to implement this, and let me share those at this time. So let's see here. So yeah, so on the second page of the memorandum, there are conditions 3 through 6 proposed, and specifically, no exterior demolition or construction may occur prior to the issuance of building permits. Also, the applicant shall submit revised construction documents that comply with conditions 2 through 4 of the memorandum, and that additionally, prior to any work on the building, a pre-construction meeting would occur between planning, building staff, the project architect, and the contractor, whoever the contractor may be for the work. And then finally, the project contractor and project architect shall coordinate on oversight by the project architect during construction. So we feel that these measures are sufficient to protect the building, and we submit them for your consideration. I think in addition to this proposal, the applicant also submitted material samples of 2 different siding types for consideration here. I have copies here at the desk. There's also 2 identical, an identical set up on the dais with the HRB members present, and then also photographs in the packet as well, I believe on page 3 there. And there is I placed a ruler there for comparison. And I think that's really the new information since the last meeting. So hopefully this will address the HRB concerns regarding the stability of the structure, but I think it's probably best that I turn it over to the project architect at this time in case she or her client wish to say anything further on the matter. So thank you.
So before we go to the applicants, I guess we have to, is there any questions for John from the HRB folks before we move on to the applicants? Just brief questions for John. Can't see if there's everyone on there. If there's any. Okay, so then we can just move on to the applicant's presentation.
I will say that we really don't have a presentation prepared. I think it's a fairly straightforward item, and we concur with everything John has said in his staff memo, and we're happy to work through those items. The only minor thing that I would say, and this is relative to the samples of the siding that were submitted, I think Tim provided samples of what was available, and the larger sample would be the one we would prefer to use just because it would be closer to what's there now. But that is all that I have, unless Tim, you have any comments?
Muted.
Apparently Tim doesn't have any comments.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. Just wanted to thank everybody for being here, and certainly want to get this right, and certainly be willing here to doing so. We'd like the wider sample of the siding as well. That's that's what's available in cedar, and that's what we're going to do.
Good. Then we can move on to public testimony. As instructed by the notice of hearing and meeting agenda, those wishing to testify at this hearing must have completed the speaker sign-up form on the website before noon today. Each citizen commenter has 5 minutes to testify. The Neighborhood Association has 10 minutes. Is there anyone testifying? I don't have to read all this then. I'll just move.
We do not have any.
We don't have any reason for any applicant response to the public. So we now move on to our questions of continuance, although, Bill, is there still an option for continuance again?
Yes, Chair Shriver, there certainly is an option for continuance if the board needs additional information or has some unanswered questions.
All right, so then we have two options here. No request for continuance, which will move on to questions of staff then, or request for continuance at the public hearing. Is there any information from any of our board members of what we wanted to do? Continue on or request a continuance? Do we need a motion on that?
You don't really need a motion on the continuance question, no.
All right, then I guess we'll just move on to questions of staff. Does the staff have any further comments or clarification regarding the application?
No, thank you.
And any members of the board have any questions for staff or the applicant at this time?
I don't see anyone.
Who does? I can't. Scott Irwin, I recognize. Oh, there it is. Yep, I recognize it. Oh my gosh, that's tiny. Yeah, Scott Irwin, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. We spent a good amount of time at the first hearing discussing the wood that appeared to be original to the building and ways of trying to preserve that without having an odd-looking facade. I think Tim actually proposed the idea of trying to preserve that wood and then using it to build the framing around one of the doors. And we looked at that as a possibility for trying to preserve the original wood, but at the same time allowing for uniformity in the remodel. And I don't think we finalized the conversation on that. I didn't see anything in the packet regarding what was going to happen with that wood. So I would appreciate, I guess, a little time on that.
Here, Tim. Tim, your mic is off. We can't.
Chair Schreiber, James Manning also has a comment.
Tim, your mic is off. We want to hear you.
Am I back?
There we
Oh,
go.
good. We could use it on maybe the entrance back to the new doorways, or we could use it on the inside someplace. We're going to have to see how it comes off. We'll be real careful getting it off, but as I said before, we need to put shear strength behind the facade. In order to do that, we're going to have to take the siding off, and doing that is pretty problematic. So I'm really trying to end up with as few seams as it's absolutely possible and no verticals. And so to the extent that we can do that, we'll certainly try to see what we can save. But I'm real interested in it looking right, and I think the best way to do that is to sort of see what we've got left after we get started.
All right, James, I saw you have your hand up too.
Yep, part of what I looked for on the building when I went to visit is to try to see if I could determine what the original siding was and where the original siding was. And to my best knowledge of ability to do that, it's the top facade of the false front, and it's pretty rotten. So I don't know how much they'll be able to save, if any, but the top left portion of the building is rotting off, basically. So it will be very difficult to save some of that lumber. I am pleased and excited to see the wider plank, because that is consistent with the front facade of the building right now, over a majority of the facade. So I think that'll clean it up and make it look very nice. Plus, it'll give the wider plank will also give it a nicer line from the street, with the elevation change going down the street. So that's all I had.
All right, any other questions of the applicant or staff from any of the board? Am I missing? Linn, do you see anything on there? I can't see any other.
Chair Schreiber, I don't see anyone else. Other comments.
So with that, I think we can move on to closing the public hearing and having internal discussions with the board. So we'll close the hearing. On to our deliberations. Do any of the board members wish to make any comments or have any motions to make on this item?
I think it appears we're ready to go with.
Hold on
Need a
one second.
motion.
John has a question. I think his mic not working.
Hold on. Hold on.
Yeah, I get a light. His light's not working. Oh, now it's working. Now it's on.
Oh, now we're good. Okay, whatever. That was
Can
a
you guys
lot
hear
of work
John?
just to,
I think it's the red light. Can you hear John
this
now?
says talk. Green one's to Q. That was an awful lot of work for, I think, a pretty straightforward question here. The 5 conditions to add here are the ones that are written in the here. Okay, I thought I heard you say 4 conditions, so I was trying to.
Sorry, I'll turn my microphone on. So I have a cover memo with 4 conditions that addresses 5 recommended conditions in the applicant's memo to the city. So your packet actually contains a city memo on top of the applicant's memorandum.
Oh, okay.
And so I could actually pull it up on the screen here to kind of clarify. Super.
6 recommendations from the city, right?
Yeah. So, and either in front of you there on the large screen behind you, I propose conditions 3 through 6, which would, and so this is the staff memorandum here. And then, however, these reference the memo, which is behind my memorandum from Iceland Architects, and from there, and their memorandum proposes 5 conditions. So it's a little cumbersome, but my my conditions refer back to the architect's conditions. So
And your first 2 points are from the original application, right? Your
correct,
right? Okay.
correct.
So that's how we get
Yeah.
stuck.
And those are fairly straightforward, essentially build
Follow
per
the
plans. So
So if the board understands that if number 1 and 2 on the memorandum respond back to the last meeting,
correct.
your first
Correct.
2 recommendations.
Yeah,
and then
those 2 conditions are, the first condition is build per the plans, and the second condition requires the use of wood siding, which the applicant has agreed to at the last meeting, as I recall. But they can correct me if I'm wrong. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from board members? Any board members wish to make a motion on this item? Our options for motions, I will read these off. We have option 1, a motion to approve. Option 2, motion to approve, subject to conditions of approval. Or option 3, motion to deny.
If I could clarify one thing, to approve with the conditions proposed by staff.
Okay.
Option 2 is if there are additional conditions that the HRB would like to include. And so that is staff deemed to go.
I would make a motion to approve option 1.
I'd second that.
Okay. Can I interject that you need to state your name, please, because we're not, we can't, our video isn't keeping up.
Who made the motion?
James Manning made the motion.
Thank you.
Our video is behind. We didn't see you.
And who seconded the motion?
David Taylor seconded.
Thank you.
Point of order, please. Just to clarify, is the motion to approve including the staff recommendations in the memorandums from the March meeting as well as for this meeting? Is that the motion we're making here?
That's the main motion. That's what John was mentioning. So the motion would be to approve DR 22, 01 and direct staff to prepare a final decision based on the findings of March 15th hearing staff report and supplemental memorandum of April 2nd. So that would include the recommendations that John had presented.
Appreciate the clarification.
Yeah, is that what you mean, James? Is that what you were intending to motion? And David, that's what you're saying in a second. Okay, perfect. I see nods on both of those. So.
Yes.
So there is a motion on the table. Any discussion on the motion? No motion in here, no discussion in here, any discussion online. I don't see any hands up. So I believe we can move on to a vote then. Is it, we do that by roll call vote?
Correct. I can do the roll call.
Then
Can I interject? Please, when you vote, state your name and how you're voting.
Christopher Owens.
Christopher Owens, aye.
David Taylor.
Taylor, yes.
James Manning. Didn't quite hear that. You might be muted, Commissioner Manning. Okay, there we go. I'm seeing 2 thumbs up on the
James
screen.
Manning, yes.
There we go.
All right, thank you.
Scott Irwin.
Yes.
Scott Irwin,
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yep.
I'm voting yes. As
Tom Watton. Tom Watton.
Tom Watton, yes.
John Steele.
John Steele, yes.
Thank you for the yes. And Chair Schreiber.
Danny Schreiber, yes.
Okay, that passes unanimously.
All right, that's unanimous. So therefore, this is passed. I think that's it. I thank everyone for their testimony tonight and for all their work on it. Your comments have been helpful. Thank you. And if you'd like to appeal this decision to City Council, you must file an application with the Community Development Department within 14 days of the signing of the final decision. We're done.
Thank you. I think the applicant has their hand
No,
raised.
does she?
Yep. So
Go ahead. Yeah.
If I may, I just thought of one other question, and I don't know if this will be addressed in the final decision, but I'm still unclear as to what the determination of the awning was. Would you like that to be one continuous awning, or is it separate awnings?
The direction that the HRB is moving is to have 80% of the coverage of the front to be covered. That's what the next code is intending to be, with Chapter 58. At this point, it's not, but eventually that's going to be the direction that all Main Street is going to head in. That's what our recommendation is to the Planning Commission, to approve that. So I don't know if that doesn't really answer your question.
So I believe that's the direction the board is moving towards. Those are the code amendments under consideration by the Planning Commission tomorrow night. But the current, as reflected in the staff report, the current standards don't mandate a minimum width across the building. So, staff was recommending approval of the awnings as proposed, and that's what the motion was for, as I understood it. So,
and I think since we are judicial and we have to follow what's already in the law, that's what's in the law currently, within the code. But our recommendation would be to be
Chair Schreiber.
80%.
Yeah.
James Manning has a comment.
Oh, yes. James, go ahead. I recognize James.
Yeah.
Sorry, Danny, I was just going to repeat what you just said. As it's written right now, it doesn't have to be 80%. But as Danny said, it would sure be nice if you guys were the presenting an example of what's to come, and we could point to you guys and say, hey, look what they did. This is what we'd like to see. So, but as Danny said, and said, as the code's written now, you don't have to do that, but we would like it.
If I may just ask Tim if he has feelings like that on that, if he can tell us right now, or if he wants to think about it. I think we're okay if you would like it to be a continuous awning. I think we had that discussion and said that would be fine. But Tim, is that correct?
Mr. Toffee, your mic is muted.
We're actually pretty flexible on the awning. I think I like the way that it's drawn, but we'll look at it drawn another way, and we'll certainly take into account the idea that we're supposed to go to 80%. And it isn't a cost thing. We just want it to look right. We're a little worried about that bisecting the building and making it look like two halves. Other than that, we have no issue at all. So what maybe we'll do is draw it and show it to you again if you like. If we don't go with the 80%, we'll show it to you again prior, but our inclinations do what you guys are looking for.
So
Yeah, and just for your knowledge, the reason why we as a board have thought of this is also taking input from the community is to try to have outdoor spaces where people can sit under an awning and enjoy food and enjoy the atmosphere. And that's the idea. If you're doing covers over the windows, that won't allow for that outdoor seating. And that's what the neighborhood has been talking about, is allowing that outdoor seating. So that's part of our thought. It might actually benefit some of your, future tenants if there's a cover there, if people wanted to sit in patios and have some place to hide from the elements. So that's kind of the idea there.
So if I could actually direct a question to the city attorney really fast. So the HRB has voted to approve the application as is, with the awnings as is. It sounds like there may be some desire to grant the applicant some flexibility on the awning design. And so I'm imagining three scenarios here. One is that the existing awning is just repaired, replaced. The second is the applicant constructs what's proposed. The third is maybe a third option that the HRB is comfortable with. I'm thinking, do we need to add a condition of approval or something? Or I'm just curious, maybe if the city attorney has some ideas about how we can build in some flexibility, or if we'd have to consider this as a separate application. I just want to make sure that we're all in order here for the record.
So from what I've heard, it sounds like the commission has approved the application as it's been submitted under the standards that existed at the time that the application was submitted, which is the appropriate thing to do, but that the applicant has indicated that could be a minimum. And if once they begin the construction, that perhaps they might make a decision to expand. I wouldn't suggest that there be a need for a new application, because obviously there'd be another fee and there'd be delays, et cetera. If the commission is comfortable understanding that they have approved the minimum based on the criteria, but that they are allowing the applicant some flexibility to expand it to the point that is consistent with the board's direction for future applications, I think that's satisfactory. I think you've got a good record of what the intent is and what the allowance for the applicant is. And I heard the applicant also say that he'd be willing to even come back and show you what the plans are, but those plans that he would come back with would be consistent with the approval. So I wouldn't make that a requirement. I'd leave it flexible.
Okay, thank you.
You are.
So I think we're done then, right? We move on.
All right. Thank you very much.
Right. Moving on, our next item on our agenda is update on the CLG grant.
James' mic is still open. That's what it shows here. It's mic.
Oh, James,
Yep.
Board Member Manning, did you have more to say? Okay, all right. All right, share my screen. Good evening, board members. My name's Lynn Schroeder. I'm the administrative assistant at with the planning department, and I want to give you an update on the CLG grant that I have taken over from Associate Planner Betty Avila after she left. I sent some materials to you about the draft of the virtual map, and I have it up here on the screen. And I was wondering if all the members got a chance to look at it. My mic is on.
We just can't hear her.
Can the virtual members hear me? Thumbs up if you can.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I can speak louder in the chambers if that helps. Okay, so my question was, did members get a chance to look at the draft virtual map? I have it on the screen right now.
Yeah.
Okay,
To be honest, I did not read.
well, that's good, but
I will read all of them.
okay. So a couple things. This is done through our GIS system, and so this is the format that's given. And I don't know if you should get a chance to try and look at it on your phone if you can, because it looks a little bit different on your phone than it does on a desktop. But we've been working with Westland Historic Society to fill out the information. So we have an introduction that lays the background for the Willamette area. And then we scroll down and we have a map right here. And the map on a mobile app can be expanded or contracted, based on pinch pull, but it's kind of small on a mobile screen until you puff it up, and then it's kind of, it's hard to have the whole area and still have the individual pins be visible. But it is designed to move through the district. So you have 1665 Willamette Falls Drive, and then we go this way down the street, down Willamette Falls Drive, and then we come around to 6th Avenue, and we go back and forth on 6th Avenue, and then we come up here to 5th, and then we go down, and I think this is one of the things you wanted, that you were discussing. The previous map didn't, or I guess the previous map was a static map. So anyway, we did miss one contributing resource, and that is 1608 6th Avenue, which I think is right here. So that does need to be added in, and we do need to get a picture of that.
1492-13. Is that one?
13th
and 6th.
It's kind of 13th.
213. That's other Sheriff Mass house.
That one does get lost. I do believe there are two Sheriff Mass house in the.
There are one at 6th and 13th, and then one at 4th and 12th.
Right. How about we go to the front of it and start from the top? So 1665, we don't have very much information on that. We did add in the church and provided some information on that, although I believe that's non-contributing. That's my understanding right now. And then we have 1705.
Contributing? Shouldn't. It's an original structure that's been.
John, do you recall? I am not, I need to actually review which ones are,
I don't recall the exact status of the structure.
yeah, I'm going to actually, that's one of the steps is to review each one to make sure that all the contributing and they're all identified as contributing, non-contributing.
1705 is a new building.
Can you say that again?
1705 is a new building.
This is the building that fell over, actually.
Right.
That's the one that fell down and was put up as a new building.
Okay. All right. So this is information that was provided to me that I included, but I will update that this is a rebuild. Okay. And so it's
Yeah,
non-contributing.
that was about 12 years ago.
Okay. Then we have Little Cooperstown.
Yep.
We have Frenzel's Market, which are these 3 storefronts?
Yeah, those are original buildings. The Frenzel Market, Market and Meat Locker. That's the those are the original buildings. Those haven't been rebuilt. So.
Right. Built in 1890. And the freezer, I believe, is still there. The meat locker.
It is.
Meat locker.
Yeah.
The original wood and metal.
It's right inside the Chinese food restaurant.
Yeah. 1785 Willamette Falls Drive.
Yeah.
We still need additional information on some of these houses, and I'm working with Beth Smollins to get some more information.
More information from her.
Okay, all right. The 1889 is just included in there as an information. I mean, it's non-contributing, so so that is the question, is whether you want to have non-contributing buildings in the virtual tour, or if you want only contributing resources.
I would, you know, the Cape and Shoe Factory is probably the oldest structure that's still in town. You know,
this isn't the original structure. It's burned down too. You know, this is a rebuild.
Well, it did burn down, but it was like 1899 is when it burned down, right?
No, it was in the teens, early 20s. It burned after the Cape and Shoe.
Okay.
I have it down as it was rebuilt in 1923.
It burned down in 1990.
Okay. Okay.
So it seems like I still need to do a lot of checking on this information with the Historic Society.
Yeah, because my understanding of when that burnt down, the top floor burnt out of it, but the bottom brick part was reused.
That's my understanding as well. Is this bottom floor was reclaimed from.
Is original. The top floor is gone.
But this facade, false front facade, was created in a remodel in
the 80s.
In 2008, I think, is what I have.
The original facade was done by the Isleys, probably in 88-ish, and then Steve Tekander redid that facade we're looking at right there recently.
Right. Okay, so then we move on. We turn the corner, 1892 6th Avenue. We have some information there. Tell me if I'm going through this too fast, but I just want to go through it so you guys can take a.
Wrong place. So 1892 is at the wrong.
Okay, that's right. That's why I keep finding that we have it, but it's the wrong pin. So this needs to be.
Pin is on 12th instead of 13.
Okay, so. All right, so here is the other Sheriff Mast House, where he had a tea house and medical practice. But this pin is in the incorrect place. Okay. Then we have 1883 6th Avenue, Kinney House. 1876th Avenue, the Frank Captain House, happens. And that's why I included the Captain Shoe Factory in it, because this house relates to the building on Willamette Falls Drive.
All this information we need to source this stuff. I don't know that 1910 built for cap. I live in that house.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
The history is supposed to be they bought it and built it before they came in.
so we're doing this in partnership with the Willamette Falls, the Westland Historic Society, and the information they're giving it to me in a spreadsheet. So we do need to fill out citations, but the question is, do you want each property to be cited within this little blurb, or do you want the sites to be at the end and it be footnoted?
Up to know where that.
Okay, all right.
Not from the walking tour.
Okay, all right.
It doesn't mean that Jeff hasn't done more research than I don't know about.
All right. 1847 6th Avenue, Queen Anne Vernacular. 1831 6th Avenue, Sadie White House.
White House and they're identical floor plans.
Oh.
One and vernacular and Queen Anne. They probably
Oh.
all call them the same thing.
I'm sorry, can I chime in? I think Danny's giving a lot of feedback that, at least for myself online, I can't hear. I'm not sure if you
Get
can.
close to the mic.
There you go. Appreciate that.
So at this time, do we want to, what's the intention now? Just kind of an update, or do you want to go line by line through all of this?
Well, no, I don't. I did want to kind of just have you guys take a look at it because you didn't have a chance, but I would like you to look at it and email me back with your comments so I can update it. And if I have something confused, you tell me, and then I can follow up with the Historic Society and other resources to fix it.
I'm worried, do we want to have a work session with the Historical Society
That's a good idea.
so that they can address some of these and find out? Or I don't know what your timing is to try to get this done, or we want to try to push it through now?
John, our goal is to get it done by August, but I do think we might have time for a work session with them.
Yeah, so our goal is that I believe we would have time for a work session. If you
Yeah.
So, yeah, we can always schedule a special work session as well.
Yeah, that way we can
Squeeze one
have
in.
Beth with all of her data so she can tell us where she's getting it from. And
Okay, and I will ask her for citations.
I know some of this is just oral history, so it's going to be hard to cite. I mean, yeah, that's the hard part too.
I think that is a problem. Right. So a couple of the other things I need to do to finish it up was well, yeah, that would be including citations and adding a Google Analytics and navigation headers, I think, through this virtual tour that I haven't added in, and then also an image at the beginning that would basically kind of provide a feeling or a kind of a set the stage for the tour. Another thing I was going to try and look at, and I don't know if it's possible in this program, but to have a slideshow. So if you clicked on, say, this photo, that it would slideshow to an old photo of the property. That would be really exciting to do, but I don't know if this program will allow us to do that.
That was one thing. That was one comment I wrote down. Is that I'm just surprised we have no historic photos.
Right.
But I don't know.
Right. So we do have them, and and that I think is the most interesting thing about the tour would be to see the before, the beginning and end. But
And then the other question I have is, at least I noticed, is that I know we're not putting in the non-contributing, but for context, there's a lot of properties in town that look old, and I think we need to address it somehow so people either know that A, we are not mentioning them on purpose because they're modern reproductions or modern, versions or fill-in. I've just seen a lot of people wander the street. They look at our neighbor's house who was built in 2001, and they go, "Oh, look at that old Victorian." And if it's not on here, they might just think, "Oh, they missed that one," or they don't have any history on it. Or if we don't say that, 1872 is a non-contributing property that was built in 2001 or whatever. I don't know. It's a lot more work.
Right.
right, so that needs to be that's actually something we should probably flesh out, because this is a virtual tour for a user, and if we have pictures in there that are non-conforming or non-contributing, too many of them, it might get lost. The message of the historic district might get lost. So that's a question for the board to decide how to
Or
best do
that's
that.
how the text is written, it might actually emphasize it.
Yeah.
That you're not
Right.
in these other properties that are historic looking, but not historic right now.
No, but that's a good point, Danny, that you brought up, and Lynn, that it would be nice to be able to tell people that the conforming building, but with under the direction of the HRB and the Planning Commission, we're building buildings that look period correct, not just a townhouse sitting in there, right? And that's a good way to give information to the community of, hey, in this area, the brand new house, but they had to kind of make it look old to fit in this neighborhood.
And of course, we are
Because an interesting side note is there was a gentleman that just moved into Willamette, and he was taking a whole bunch of photos of houses and the businesses, and he's a great photographer, and he posted them on the historic Willamette Main Street website of, hey, look at all these old buildings, and people flamed him and said that building was built 3 years ago, and it was a learning experience for him, but it was a painful one. This might be a way where it'd be a learning experience for people and not be painful,
As well as we are setting historical record too. That just because the house was built in 2001 doesn't mean that in 50 years we need a record
Exactly.
of built, and this could be the historical
Right.
record if that's what we wanted to do on it. I'm just
modern day Samuel.
Yeah, we just have to discuss that as a board if that's the direction of the grant. But the other question I had on my notes was the order when you're going through them. It seems to be kind of weird. Like it's not in a particular, like it kind of goes down 13th a little way, then drops onto 6th, and then jumps back down to 4th, and then.
The order should be going east on Willamette Falls Drive, then west on 6th, and then west on 6th, and then east on 5th. But it's going back and forth across the street.
Right.
So that's why it may look like it's hopping back and forth. But
Okay, right around 5th, it got confused for a second because it jumped over for 4th for a second, then jumped back.
And that may be because that one house is out of order, that one pin. So I will check the order again. So check order. But yeah, so the idea was that you'd be walking, just kind of strolling back and east and west, up and down the streets. Do any of our virtual members have any comments at this time?
Well, I just first off want to say this looks really awesome as a starting point for sure. I think you got a lot of really high quality photographs of some of the houses. There were a few photographs where I felt like it could have been a better taken photograph because there's some sun spots on the lens. So maybe some of those photographs could be retaken at a different time of the day. As well as some of the houses just look like the yard was very early springish looking, and maybe some of those photographs could be retaken to make the yard look a little bit more developed. So if we could take some late April pictures, maybe just to make sure every house is looking in its best light. One recommendation I have for the photographer is to take a ladder, and because I know some of the properties were elevated, and for a matter of perspective, sometimes it's nice for a photographer to get a few feet up from ground level and then take a photograph. So that's I guess that's my input on the images there. Thank you.
So we really do need to thank the Westland Historic Society for their awesome job with creating these photos. I do believe they got a volunteer real estate, someone who takes photos for for realtor, and I'm not sure who it was, who went around in February, and so that's why it does look like early spring, and took these photos. And there are a couple with some sunspots, and that is unfortunate. I don't know if we'll be able to get new photos. I know there's one property that was missed that we do need to get a photo, so I can talk to the Westland Historic Society about that. I do think the opportunity with the work session would really be helpful to see what we can and can't do.
So Lynn, will this have its own website, or it's going to be linked within the city website?
Yes, no, we'll actually embed it in our website, but right now it's on its own. This is its own website, which I think is just our public face of our ArcGIS, but I don't know the technical. I don't know exactly where this is housed. That would be a question for our GIS guy, but we will embed it on the historic page and probably in parks as well. And then other organizations can embed it as well, like in their page.
I think the Historical Society is going to do that too, I think. Anybody else got any input or comments on? And then the second part, Lynn, was the educational materials.
Yes. And that I wanted to get more feedback from you guys. My understanding is the education material, the target audience is the homeowners themselves, the historic property homeowners. And we want to create some materials for them so they know how to go about remodeling or renovating their house and keeping it keeping historic properties, elements in their house. So Betty gave you some examples of other jurisdictions that created educational materials. And I went through that and kind of gathered up some of what I thought was the best of each of those and created this outline for our historic district webpage. And I structured it in terms of questions, frequently asked questions. And of course, the information isn't all filled out, but I did want your feedback on whether or not this was an appropriate way to do that. And then the educational materials that we deliver to the homeowners would reference this web page. So this would be the content that the materials that we sent, that we somehow deliver to the property owners would reference back to this web page. And so if we get the content, then we can discuss the method of targeting the homeowners.
I mean, one question I have is I don't know if we entirely intended the target audience to be only homeowners. I think that was like what we were talking about was our first target was the homeowners.
Right.
Because I think we wanted to go beyond that and try to get other folks to try to join within, to move, if they have historic property, to also to try to.
So eligible members would also be a target. So
right. as well as, other people who are, in Bolton or in other neighborhoods that are not part of Willamette,
Right.
who have historic properties. But, and then I think also beyond that wasn't just about renovations. I think we want to talk also about the benefits and positives, which you touched on a little bit in here in what you wrote it, but I wanted to less focus on the burden of owning a historic home, but the benefits of owning a historic home. Not just about renovations, but other things that to try to keep, try to keep everybody happy in the historic district. 'Cause,
Okay.
Sometimes we think of the hysterical society, not the historical society.
Um, I do believe, again, that messaging is something that, I believe we can deliver to them and that goes to a little bit down in the materials. One of the ways I felt we could kind of celebrate your historic homeness was, creating postcards of existing homes in a, in a old-fashioned format, and that we would deliver information to them that way, referencing the website.
So this will be its own city, you're proposing like within the city website again?
Yes, this would be a page on our website, and then we would, it would be hyperlinked, or, the materials we send out would reference this if they want more information. So that would be, this would be the content. But if you have, so you want more of a discussion on what is the benefit of owning an historic home?
I thought that's what we were discussing. I mean, as a board, I thought that was one of the ideas, was to talk about the benefits of it. I mean, everything in here is great. This is all very accurate. It's a little bit like reading code.
Okay.
Which is not the most appealing thing. I mean, I know we love it, but I don't know if the homeowners want to go through and read the code again. I guess I'd have to see how the website, how it actually physically looks in the user, where they call it user engagement kind of thing,
Mhm.
to see how it works. But, I'd want to make it, some of the ones that I remember that Benny showed us were very, I don't know what the word I want to use. I want to say pedestrian, but they were very easy to access and very easy to understand. It was all like great things about it. There was all positives. I don't know. Do you remember any of those, John? Any other ones that she was pointed out? They just seemed that they were very, you know, cheerleader-like of the celebration of your home, um, with a little description of what they do. But I guess, we can't necessarily hide everything. that there is code they have to follow.
I'm just trying to find that right now so we can take a look at it.
Yeah, she gave us like 3 or 4 different cities.
Open. That's not it. I apologize, Chair. I can't get that information right at this. I'm having trouble finding
It's only been a couple of months, It's only like
maybe
last
it's here.
summer, I think.
Well, here's her PowerPoint. Share.
Does any of the other board have any, any input on? Yeah, I remember Jefferson.
Do we talk? I think we talked about maybe doing like a refrigerator magnet with a few key pieces of information on it. So that way it's something that's always there for someone. I mean, you give them a postcard. I mean, I guess then there's a good chance they might have a magnet to put that postcard onto their refrigerator. But if we've got the funding to actually create the postcard with the magnet already built into it, then I think that'd be a lot higher likeliness of the resident keeping it in an accessible location.
Well, a magnet would have to be smaller and it's only one-sided, so, but we could do a magnet with like a QR code on it.
Yeah, maybe something separate, you know, or I guess, you know, with the postcard, maybe include a little magnet and maybe just, you know, just says HRB under or something, you know. I would just be concerned that someone would get the postcard and look at it and say, "Oh, that looks cool," and then toss in the recycling, and then it's gone. But if it's materially something other, such as a magnet, then it's like they have to pause for a second and think, is this something of utility that I should keep before I throw it away? And if it's a magnet, then people usually don't throw magnets away. So that's, I don't know, that's just my marketing mind right there.
Okay, so, a magnet would be preferred, okay.
What's the budget we have on this? Lynn, do you know what the budget was on this whole thing?
The total budget, I think we had, do you know, John?
Offhand, I don't recall, but it's
I don't
fairly
recall it.
lean, so I think the magnets could be,
That's what I was wondering.
yeah, but having them both designed, having them designed, printed, and delivered could exceed the budget.
Yeah.
Unless it was a very small run.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah, so that may have to be something, Scott, we have to do for another CLG grant later, just because of cost. I know.
yeah, it's a potential worthy project. I think this may not be the best time to do it, but I think it's something, I think it's worthy, so.
We have to have this done by the summer, right? For the.
Maybe we could time the 5K that I was trying to get us to do. I know Dave's down for it.
so, I guess, I would like, so I guess my direction from you is to refocus the content on more on a soft sell of the glories of historic home ownership.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I know, I've read a lot of data on it from realtors. There's a lot of realtor information talking about the benefits of a historic home, that they tend to sell for more money, that there's, you know, more value to them. There's a lot, I know when you start looking at the National Registry, they've got lots of resources already in there about the National Registry of why you should be in a National Registry, besides the fact of saving the home and all that kind of stuff. But I think the homeowners know already all the burdens they have to face of coming to us. What we need to benefit them is that they get access to grants, they get access to, you know, the pride of ownership of being in a historic district. It's huge, as well as, you know, their price per square foot in the historic district is much more valuable than the people across the street who aren't in the historic district. So there's, you know, there's an economic value there to it, and they get eligible for local grants, for federal grants and state grants that they can get for funding for all of those. So those are the kind of the things that I'm thinking about, as well as, you know, the beauty and the pride of ownership, and then the historic events that take place. They're within walking distance of the historic Main Street area and those things. That's for the historic, that's for the Willamette district, but there's other people in town who have other benefits too. And
all right.
So, you know, I'm not a realtor, but maybe the realtors would know the better pitch on the realtor side, but there's definitely a reason for it.
Okay, and then would you like it in that trifold format that we could put into water bills? Because that could be,
like that format, yeah.
that is something we could actually, that's a smaller chunk of information that could fit on this trifold.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe it just, I don't know, I'm just throwing out the ideas, but maybe and anyone else, if you guys disagree with me, shout out. But I'm thinking, like, at the front, you can call it benefits of owning a historic home instead of, you know, guide to owning a historic home. You know, And then maybe we should put something in there, John, we've talked about this, of how to add a home to the historic recognition, landmarks.
Correct, yeah, so there's a nomination process that we could sort of mention in terms of that,
Yeah.
flagging that for people. I think also to your earlier point, there's a lot of literature out there about the benefits of historic home, both from, the federal and state governments as well as nonprofit groups that we could maybe
Steal
link to
little
as well.
pieces from. They've already done all the,
Yeah,
they've done all the studies.
exactly.
But I think it would be nice also to put in there that how, because I bet you that there's families who are Westland families who've been here for generations who have a home and say, well, I never knew we could protect it. I didn't know there was a process for me to make it a landmark.
That's correct, and also as we've talked about on other occasions, what is considered historic is always a moving target because time moves on, and now the homes of my parents are now,
Yeah.
looking at being historic, and even homes of my childhood maybe. So we'll, wait and see. But yeah, so I think you're right. I think it would be good. People may be interested in that. So something we could add.
Especially if, grandma's getting older and they're about to sell the house and maybe they want to protect it to keep it around so that, the home that's been in the family for 100 years doesn't get bulldozed once they sell it.
Okay, so why don't I work on drafting that up as this trifold brochure and bringing it back to you, and then that's something we can actually look at and chew on a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, and then for right now we'll kind of put the postcards aside.
The postcard. Well, I mean, I like the general idea of the concept of what you have there. The art looks great. This we've got to put context on the backside, I guess, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Are you thinking the postcard to go also in the separate from the water bill or with the water bill?
I was thinking that the postcard would be something we send out separately, and that it would just be kind of a collector's item, like member Irwin was talking about something that was worthy to put on the refrigerator,
Cool, yeah.
but that it would have a QR code on it, and that it would be something that people could actually, collect. But they would be pictures of our historic homes. So we would use those, maybe those, we take maybe the pictures that the Historic Society took and then make them look like old postcards in this old postcard style, which is basically just some sort of graphic overlay you put on it. And then, but of course we couldn't do every historic home, so not everyone would get their own home. That might be kind of weird. Yeah, maybe we could sell it. So do we want to put that, maybe kind of put that down in the pin in that and come back to that?
Yeah, I like that idea. And I'm wondering
Okay.
if there's others we can partner with if we don't have the funds for it. There might be other groups in town that we can
Okay.
partner with.
There's also in the future, there are other approaches. You have push pull, giving information, push pull. So you could put up neighborhood kiosks. You could and you could have a neighborhood night out to celebrate historic homes. That the city could provide an ice cream truck or something like that, but not within this grant because I don't think there's money in that grant. But that's ideas for the future that could be perhaps if you and does this historic district have a homeowners group like?
Just the neighborhood association,
But that's a greater thing. But maybe that's another thing is to create a homeowners group of historic homes where these ideas can brew.
and we should, I think that would be another great thing to put in a group. We could get Main Street, you could get the neighborhood association, historical society, all kind of come on board on that and do a little celebration. I bet you that's probably maybe a group partnership on that one.
Okay, so what did I get everybody who's virtual? Do they have any comments on either one of these? Scott Owen's just wandering around that office. Okay,
Sorry,
so
my dog is just baiting me to chase him.
yeah, okay. So what I will do is I will wait for your comments on the virtual tour, and then I will make the updates. I will reach out to Beth Smallins and the Historic Society and work on getting together a work session in the next month on the virtual tour. Does that sound like a good summary of that? And then I will also draft up a trifold on the benefits of historic homeownership and how to become part of the district. And I'll draft that up for the next meeting and we'll take a look at that. Does that seem like a good
Like
good
it.
summary?
We have a few other homes that are not in the district too, right? That are part of the landmark. So I don't know if they need to be addressed, but they're all part of the benefits of it, right? I mean, they would all benefit from less historic protection.
Correct, yeah,
Those
so,
things, yeah.
yeah, so, I mean, there are resources outside the district.
Yeah. So we want to use generic terms like historic landmark, not Willamette Historic District, because it's not just the historic district. It's, right, in the terms of the trifle.
Okay, all right, yeah, general terms.
Yeah.
Go historic.
It would count for people outside the, there's not that many, but there's a
No,
few.
Yeah, they're mostly in the.
Yeah.
All right,
Thank you, Lynn. That is awesome.
Okay.
I love that.
thank you.
Next item is staff update on Historic City Hall.
And that's me again. So we got the Historic City Hall listed last October, as you all recall. And we now need to get our plaque put on that building. And so we're talking about doing a ceremony for that. But first, we're going to get a plaque. And I sent you a example of a plaque that was mocked up. And this is about half the size of the existing dedication plaque, and it would be proposed to be put right under the existing dedication plaque. And I would think that we'd want to add those flower details on the corners as we drill, where you put the screws in. But so I want to get your feedback on the plaque, and then also a ceremony. What we probably would want to have that sometime in August or early September. The city is going to be doing an arched bridge celebration in October. So we wanted to keep that separate, but we might want to do an event at City Hall. We went down there the other day and it was a little gross, but we could clean it up a little bit and just say, here's, put up the plaque and say, here it is, and let's go inside and have donuts and take a look at what it's going to be, what we're proposing to make it.
Yes, quick question. It seems like that should be done in coordination with the Emmett Falls and Landing Historic District Coalition, since they've done all the resources and stuff and the due diligence and stuff on the building.
Nope.
And as far as getting its listed, John, Cody's husband, do all the files and got the original letter from the State Historic Society on it.
David, we're having a really hard time understanding you in here. Can any other board member on virtual hear him better?
David, can you put your phone a little closer to you, perhaps?
Okay, well, maybe it's a thing. What I'm saying is the celebration should be, I would think we'd want to do it in conjunction with Willamette Falls and Landing Historic Coalition that put together a lot of the due diligence and work on the building the last couple of years.
Are you just talking the celebration portion?
Yes.
You're talking about bringing in the partnership, I guess, bringing in another partner into the
partnership done everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we should contact them and plan the ceremony together, is what you're suggesting? Okay.
I think there's a couple of players that we'd want to bring in too.
Right.
The Willamette Falls Heritage Coalition, the Willamette Falls. There's like 3 or 4 that all have the Willamette Falls in the beginning. That probably all should be a part of it. And then
So I'm going to have to beg your pardon, but I get them all mixed up. So it would be very helpful to to know the actual full names of all of them.
I know there's the landings, there's the Heritage Coalition, and there's the area. There's like 3 different ones, but we should probably all invite them all. And then the Historical Society too. They'll come too.
Yeah.
Right.
But one that's shepherded everything and all the heavy lifting is Willamette Falls Landing
Right.
Historical Area Coalition. Then they have also worked with Willamette Falls Foundation, although they've been secondary.
Okay, so we invite them or we plan the party with them?
Well, I'm not sure how the management currently is going. You probably need to talk to Jody. Willamette Falls Area Coalition, Willamette Falls and Landing Area Coalition, you'd probably want as partners in the transaction. Jody's on the board as treasurer there.
Okay, Jody Carson.
Yes.
All right, I'll contact her. Okay, so I just wanted to give you guys a heads up on that we'll probably do that. We'll target late summer and we'll target, we're hoping that the Iceland architects will provide some renderings or, some drawings. And so everyone can get on board with how, the future of the historic city hall.
My only recommendation on the plaque wordage is I think we might want to have the year that it was dedicated put on there.
Well, if you see,
The year that it was put on the registry, I mean.
oh, okay,
The year
dedicated,
that it was put on to the
Okay.
historic registry, because it doesn't, it just says it was listed, it doesn't say when.
dedicated 2021. Yeah, all right.
Just so that there's some sort of reference on there that it wasn't from day one. Obviously, it's going to be right next to the year, the plaque of the year it was built, but. Yeah.
Open year 2.
Are there any ideas for the ceremony that are that you find particularly interesting to do or that you want to do? I mean, besides cookies and,
Well, the Westland Historical Society is very good about doing reenactment kind of things. So if you wanted any sort of reenactment dedication-y thing, we can always do some sort of little sketch or skit, but we'd have to reach out to the Historical Society to see if they would be willing to write something. They've done that for other dedications.
okay, all right.
If we wanted to do something like that, have people dressed as, some of the other famous people from the 1930s or something. I don't know.
Okay, all right.
That she'll have ideas. She's crazy. That.
One thing,
Yeah.
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 One idea might be the original occupants of the structure, since it was a grocery store meat market. I think there was
That's
a
a
post
great idea.
office. I mean, just something evoking the, maybe your civil servant from the 1920s or something, 30s, I should say, but just,
We could get old cars and other cool things to be up there, and the Historical Society has that kind of stuff. And obviously, it'd be get the press there, get that photo. But
Now, do you foresee it having a large community presence? I don't know how well we could fit a large community down there.
you're not going to get a large community.
What?
We might get a few people, but not a large community.
All right, okay.
I mean, there is the empty lot across the street. It's just a dirt lot that you
Yeah.
could just be this. Just to make sure, this sign is the one that's facing
The Arch Bridge, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you can still see it if you're across the street.
Yeah.
From it.
I could recommend, maybe we select a venue on Willamette Falls Drive, kind of an after hours event, if you will. Maybe a new food pod, or to give us an opportunity, I guess, for people to more casually come together, to add an ongoing social element aside from meeting at the Old City Hall itself.
I mean, part of our go-to for the Historical Society is you always want to have some sort of content. So we always like to have, bands, singers, entertainment of some kind. You can make it historic and, have a barbershop quartet or, old-fashioned little trio or quartet. There's a bunch of them around town that we know that
Well-
do that style of 1930s music.
Well, interestingly, the West Linn High School played at the original dedication. So that would be super fun if they could play again.
If we could get them,
Yeah.
are we talking about summer?
Yeah, we are. So it would be
That'd
hard.
long gone.
Yeah. To get the marching band there.
If you did it, I think it's October 1st is the 100-year anniversary of the Arch Bridge celebration. If you did it on October 1st, you would have a big crowd and people, and you could just have it as an agenda note to that program. People could walk across the bridge and see the dedication of this old city hall, and then go back to the festivities of the bridge celebration.
We did discuss that, and I think we pulled the events apart because we thought that the dedication would get lost, and that it deserves its own title, I guess.
Yeah. But
John,
you would have a captive group of a lot of people from
That's why I'm not saying too much.
Oregon City and West Linn, and the street will be closed, and there will be a band there, and there's going to be vendors, and everything with that. So that will draw people to that dedication.
Bridge was a big event. John did it all.
I mean, we could.
Nobody that worked.
I know they're still putting together the celebration for the bridge. That's not finished yet. But we could do a re-unveiling at that time. Basically a restaging. We could do our own early, and then at that. But I think you're right. It'll probably get buried with all the other activities that are going to go on. But it could be another photo op within it. And then we could use our celebration as the dress rehearsal, and then do it again for them.
Well, I think too, if the organizers of the bridge wanted to encourage people to cross the bridge, giving them somewhere to go to, may actually play nicely. It wouldn't just be to walk up and down the bridge. It could also, help them out.
Right. There's a
Help their
destination.
distance. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, so it looks like we have some ideas. I will, how about what I do is reach out to Jody Carson and ask for her input, and get some things on, or draft it out with some ideas and come back with a plan.
I mean, it depends. If we wanted to make it pretty low key, we could make it just a low key ribbon cutting kind of thing, photo op, press op, or we could make it bigger and have more of a celebration like the bridge thing on our own. If you wanted to do more of a celebration, bring in the Westland Historical Society, they could make it a big party and make it look like it's a big event. Have old cars out front, have the old fire truck out there, have stuff for people to see and do, have entertainment, snacks and other things. Otherwise, just make it a ribbon cutting and save that all for the bridge.
Okay. All right.
Whichever.
Either way, it'll be fun.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's all I have, John.
Next item on our agenda, discussion item, demolition of Mill A at Willamette Falls. Was I with somebody? I didn't. I thought I heard it. So I asked John to add this to our agenda. This was sent out by PGE a couple weeks ago, that they are moving forward with their plans to demolish Mill A on the island there. And John sent out all the documentation if you had a chance to read through it. But basically, I wanted to bring it to the board's attention that PGE is claiming demolition by neglect, which I know since the 17, 18 years I've lived here, they've done nothing to the building. So no shocker that it's fallen down, because when you don't do anything to it, it just falls down when it's in the middle of an island surrounded by water. So they are claiming this demolition by neglect. They want to bulldoze it, basically get rid of it. What I don't know, and John, I don't know if you know this, there's no information on here of what they plan to do with the property itself, with the actual physical building, besides just raise it. Do you know anything else?
I don't have any clarity in terms of how they plan to reprogram that space.
Okay.
So that's not, I don't have that.
There isn't any right now. I was just actually down on that site the last couple of weeks. The demolition by neglect, as Danny says, they haven't done any work to the building since it quit being a part of the sawmill. And the ice storm last year demolished the roof and demolished a wall and demolished some interior walls. So that's what they're going to do with it. But at this point, they're going to remove all the hazardous materials, the woods, the beams, and leave the concrete structure that's there intact at this point. So there really isn't a plan to do anything with it other than, make sure that it doesn't fall into the river.
I mean, I guess what my point in bringing this to the board was that I know we've talked about this demolition by neglect over and over again, and it's happened over and over. And this is an ongoing situation. This is actually I read the doctoral thesis all about this, talking about how this is a business strategy that corporations use, that when they own a historic building, they don't want to maintain it. They just let it degrade, and then they don't have to, then they can bulldoze it and don't have to worry about it, because that is their way out of having to take care of properties. And that is my concern with all of the historic buildings in town, that even the city is guilty of letting properties just, degrade to the point where an ice storm comes and the building falls down and you have to bulldoze it. And, part of our directive is as the board is to try to help save these things before they get to the point where they can't be saved anymore. And I just wanted to bring that up to the attention that we are facing this. There's a lot more buildings on that property they're within our jurisdiction, aren't they? I mean, they're within the city of West Linn. So
yeah, they are within the city of West Linn.
And this is a contributing. Remind me, John, you said it was
it's
eligible, right?
The structure is eligible for listing on the National Register, but it's not listed.
Okay.
And so because it's not listed, it's not subject to Chapter 25, which is the historic resource chapter. So.
Right.
But of course, we would have no say in it anyway, because it would fall under the chapter of demolition by neglect.
So that's part of Chapter 25. So this is not, it's not a listed resource. It's not a protected resource in the city. So, yeah.
So that's just that, to show everyone. I don't know if there's anything else that we can do about it. It looks like SHPO is already dealing with it. They have some plans to try to interpret it and make documentation of it. And there's also some plans to save any physical pieces that are in that building. But otherwise, we're going to be losing that, one of the, I think, if not the oldest, if not one of the older buildings on the island, coming up very shortly. So
it looks like Commissioner Watt has his hand raised, and so.
Oh yes, Tom. Yeah.
Oh, I just had something to add. Basically, and I took a tour of the island. I think it was last December when there was an opportunity given to us to do that, and it's exciting to look at. But if you structurally, engineerily look at the buildings, the concrete's falling off of the rebar that's however old. The rebar's rusting on significant structural areas throughout. So, I mean, it would be nice to be able to work with what's there and create some of the exciting things that we all talk about. But I think it's going to be tough to work with what's there. I think it's going to have to come down to a slab and then work your way back up to whatever improvements and great ideas that are out there. Because it's a wonderful area, but it's the concrete's failing everywhere on that. But like you said, Danny, there's a lot of interior things, machinery, cool details, things that can be pulled out of there and repurposed or brought back in after something else is done. But I think we're chasing our tail on trying to keep the majority of those buildings that are on the island. There are other buildings that are not on the island. That's a different story. But on the island in particular, under PGE's ownership.
You know, that was one of the reasons I was there, is to look at some of that old equipment that's in the building, and they are planning on pulling some of that equipment out and putting it at the warehouse area that's just upriver a little bit. But there is some equipment that is, you know, it's been underwater for 5 years, so a lot of that isn't going to be saved. And to Tom's point, with the concrete failing, some of the foundations are failing, so water is leaking in from the river into the foundations, and they want to, you know, try to get the equipment out of there before the foundation fails and it goes into the river. So it's a shame that, you know, it's still not operating as a mill, but it's a good thing they're not get apart. So
Foundation has been working with PGE, and we've gone through and identified a lot of the important equipment and negotiating with PGE on serving that important equipment. The actual structure on the riverside, though, is very sound. And PGE has to maintain that because that's part of the dam, and is all over them on that. But this has been a long project that the foundation has been working with PGE. And comments made earlier, I think it's the second oldest building, because about 18 months ago, they took down the oldest building, which I think was Mill J or Mill F, that actually in the middle of the complex. Come a long time because of the asbestos and other abatements they had to do.
Again, I think my point isn't that I don't think there's anything we can do at this point. I think it's, you know, it's gone. But I just get concerned about the other buildings that are out there and other buildings in town, and that this continues to happen with properties. And we need to have a stronger code enforcement, making sure that the owners, whether it's the city of West Linn or PGE or whoever is the owner, is doing the proper things to keep these buildings from getting to the point where the concrete is corroding and roofs are falling in. And I know the city currently has the City Hall, and I haven't seen any work done on City Hall in, I don't know when I've ever seen any work done on City Hall. And I've heard there's already problems with leakage in the City Hall, and that building is just sitting there. There's the old Bolton Fire Station, same thing. There's, you know, Sunset Fire Station, which tends to be kept up pretty well, but the city does own a number of old buildings, and all of those need to be watched out for. And we need to be, we as the Historic Review Board need to be keeping an eye out to make sure that the homeowners or the property owners are doing what they need to do before we get to this point where it has to be bulldozed and, you know. But that's just why I wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. Sorry for the depressing news.
So that's fine. I think staff did recently, some of us did recently tours Old City Hall, and actually we were taken around by the maintenance person. So the city has been spending a fair amount of staff hours actually, you know, dealing with like minor flooding in the basement, or which there's an actual stream that runs through the basement of the building. So it's been that way for 100 years. So it's original to the building, but you know, so there's a trench in the basement floor, and so we can actually see water flowing. So it's original feature. But you know, but the city has been maintaining that building. It's a minimal level, but you walk in, it's watertight. So it seems.
And Bolton?
No, I don't know about the others. Okay. I can only tell you what I've seen.
Yeah, Bolton and Robin. I know Robin with the neighbors are taking care of it, but Bolton seems to be corroding quickly too. But good. I didn't know there was a river in
there. Yeah, it's more of a stream, but it's very, very small. Very tiny salmon.
Any other comments on the status of Mill A?
I mean, I just wanted to chime in. I guess, you know, on one end, I'm kind of on getting as much of the development that is there out of the way so we can restore the natural beauty of that area, I guess is the side that I lean on. I'm sorry if that's not me being a proper HRB member, but yeah, I'm kind of like, yeah, if it's derelict and falling apart, then get it out of the way so we can enjoy the natural beauty of the space once again, ever so slowly. I mean, of course, if we can have someone go down and make sure, good photographs are taken, and like was said, like machinery is being preserved, someplace if we can create some kind of museum space, great, but yeah, I can't say I'm really on the side of preserving any of those resources around the waterfall there.
So Scott, that section of the mill, Scott, will probably never be open to the public because, as David said, the dam runs around there, and you have to pass the power plant. And I would doubt in any of our lifetimes that will be anything like that other than a bare foundation.
Yeah, I don't plan on, I guess, going down to enjoy it. I guess it's more of the maybe the bird's eye view of the city that I appreciate that as like, as far as what I understand is it's what the fourth largest waterfall in the country. And, it's definitely served its industrialized purpose. But then, if we're done with it, then, we should put it back to the way it was. It's just, I'm sorry, I'll just be quiet.
I keep in mind, though, that actually is entirely changed from what it was historically. It's all man-made by this point. That is entirely man-made. There's nothing original. If you look at the old pictures, that the old pictures and the old drawings don't match what's modern there. But that's neither here nor there. But
Look, I think what they're doing across the river, they're pulling the paper plant up, is dramatically changed the views. If you walk up like by the still house, the views out of there are dramatically different than they were years ago. So I think you can see a little bit of letting it go back to the way it was, or at least getting a bunch of old chunky buildings out of the way, so you actually can see the river in the fall is a worthwhile objective.
good. So, any other items of interest from any board members? What's our next item on the agenda? I was just going to mention, I'm not sure, John's probably told everybody, but a lot of the city emails are going to junk mail, spam mail. So just another reminder for everyone to check their spam mail.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Yeah.
So, and if you are on Google, if anyone's on Gmail, you might want to make sure you mark as not spam. I think that'll help the effort of the city. The more people they get to say not spam, they'll eventually stop knocking it off the spam. There was a notice that John sent a couple weeks ago that the Historical Society dropped off physical hard copies of the new magazine journal that they're doing, historical journal. They've dropped off a copy for each of the board members here at City Hall. So John has those here. So if you want to pick those up, those are available as a printed physical copy for all the board members. That's a great article by John.
Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, so I have copies in envelopes on my desk. It will all be a will call, so you can just come by and pick them up at your leisure. If for some reason you're unable to make it to City Hall in the near future for any reason, just let me know and I can have one mailed out as well. So.
They're autographed, right?
John, did you autograph them?
By by request, yes. So.
Well, we're in City Hall right now.
Yeah, they're actually downstairs on my desk. I can give you one.
I could have one when
Absolutely. Yeah.
Any other items of interest from the board? Any other board members?
Are we having a meeting on the 17th?
Yeah, is now a good time to roll into staff updates?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, great. Yeah, so there will be a meeting next month. And so there are going to be, there will be one quasi judicial item. It's window additions to 1795 Willamette Falls Drive. This is Hometown Sports on the corner. The building's only about 20 years old, but it happens to fall in that tight area where it's both the historic district and the Willamette Falls Drive Commercial Design District. So, but it's just, they're converting the upstairs from office space to apartments. And so it's just windows to, on the rear and non-street facing side facade. So they'll match the existing, but it'll come to you for recommendation to us, the director. And then the other updates, just a reminder, tomorrow night is the Planning Commission's first public hearing on the code changes. So we have not received any comments from any state agencies or the public. So I don't know if we're going to receive any, but if anyone from the HRB wants to attend tomorrow night, I think Scott's obligated, but the rest of you are, you're free to come and participate, answer questions, things like that, if you wanted to. I think we touched on this at the last meeting. So it's going to be a hybrid format similar to tonight as well. So just an update there.
I do want to chime in that, I think when the Planning Commission reviewed the food cart pod project there, I mean, one thing I think was very influential was they saw that we voted unanimously in support of it. And so even though there were only 5 of the 7 members there to vote, I mean, they all voted in support of it. Even though one member expressed some reluctance to support it, once they realized they would be standing alone against it, they ended up voting for it. So I do think that if anyone on the HRB wants to sign up to speak even briefly, I think it will have an event.
Okay. So I think that's all I have at this point. For
And our
updates.
next meeting is the 17th,
Correct. Let me just double check that actually.
and we'll be hybrid again, or what's the?
We will be hybrid again. So. Yep. And apologies earlier for the script error mentioned. I described you as Planning Commission. Last month I had HRB and Planning Commission back to back. And again, this month I have Planning Commission tomorrow night after HRB.